Welcome to my navigation of the NDIS, a podcast by myself, Leonie Whiting, and my support worker, James Monson. On this podcast, we will be talking about the ups and downs, ins and outs of my experience navigating through the NDIS. Both James and I speak from our experiences only, as we do not work for the NDIA.
Hi, welcome to podcast number four
Four.
with Leonie and James. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to resource support, including support coordination, as well as short-term accommodation, vocational out-of-home care, and things like that, that are now becoming a little bit more prevalent and dispersed by the fact that it's not regulated in the NDIS world, depending on your plan, the way your plan's set up. So whether it's plan managed, NDIA managed, or self-managed.
That's correct. I just want to say I won't be doing a lot of talking today. As you can hear, I'm still quite hoarse from having a really severe chest infection. Was not COVID, thank God, but nevertheless it landed me in bed for 3 days, which put us 3 days behind in everything else that we try to do to help other people that are suffering from a disability. So James is going to be doing most of the talking today and I'm signing off.
And I very much dislike talking, so that's going to be hard for me. So I suppose at the start of the thing is working out, what you need, and then going from there. So, when you're figuring out what you need, you have to fit it into what they say, which is the reasonable and necessary, and you want to be working towards goals. And I think once you've sort of nutted that out, it becomes about how you word things as well, especially when it comes to putting it to the NDIS. I think we've discussed that when we were talking about, getting onto the NDIS plans and stuff like that. So, for instance, putting if you're a parent and you've got children with autism, children with autism or any kind of disability in fact, and you would like what used to be called respite, you can't say respite anymore. You now have to put it as I'd like my child to build social skills, and be
Working
separation.
Towards,
work on separation anxiety.
Yeah.
That's sort of an instance where that would work, because NDIS is focused on the person that's got a disability. I understand. I've got two disabled brothers, so I watched my parents, raising 2 kids with a disability, and me, which I'm hard enough, right? So, I watched them with raising 2 kids with disability, and they back in the day they had respite and all of that stuff, and it was still hard enough, and parents of kids with disability, they need that. They need a break. It's hard. It's pretty hard work to do by yourself, and sometimes I want to say, but marriages can't make it through those kind of tough times, and there are a lot of single parents out there that have got kids with disabilities, and then that just that compounds it. And in today's society where everything needs to be centered around 9 to 5, and everything's rushed, and it's just a bit of a rat race. It eats at you, and So respite is a big thing. So, wording it so that it's focused on your child rather than on the necessity of yourself.
That's correct.
It's a small thing. It's a tokenistic thing for the NDIA or NDIS. But things that you can, I suppose, it's hard as well for a lot of people out there that are relatively new to the NDIS or haven't been around the industry for a long time. It's hard to find. Obviously Google's great, so we can Google everything under the sun and it comes up with 10,000 different options. But some of the things that you can't Google are things that are run by independent. So I'm an independent support worker. I've got a website, not me, but my wife and I have got a website. But there are a lot of independents out there that don't. But it's just, a lot of it's also like word of mouth. So, Leonie's lucky to have this mouth and I do a lot of talking. So I talk about a lot of other independents and all other kind of stuff like that. So yeah.
Just to add there, I have a really, really good plan coordinator as well. So, but that's taken me 7 years to get a good plan coordinator, and my life has changed dramatically having this plan coordinator in my life because they're very on top of what my needs are. So they check in with me every week to see how I'm going, and they ask if there's anything that I need, anything I don't need. So they are aware of the different things that you can access as weekends away, camps, development days, all those sorts of things. So it really, really helps if your child has a really good plan coordinator, because they can then also see how the child's needs are affecting the needs of the family. So they can organise things for them to go away for the weekend on a development camp and to go to development days and things like that, which gives the family a bit of time to reconnect why the disabled child is not in the house.
The only support coordinator is Tanya, and she's based in the Shoalhaven area. She's pretty good. She's excellent. She's been very helpful for Leonie. And on the camp side of things for kids, there is some regulation around that, which is the vocational of out-of-home care. Now, out-of-home care, and so you need to be the company the company needs to be registered. Sorry, just had a coffee and my ADD's kicking in. But you've got to be registered with that out-of-home care.
With the NDIA?
No, so it's a different organisation that's put together. So you get registered with them, so it's pretty rigorous. They check every one of your policies and go through it, check your wording. Yeah.
So that's where a good plan coordinator comes into it, because they do most of that for you.
Yep.
But if you're doing it yourself, you can get help. So don't think that that you just, I want to say push hill, but you can't say that.
Push poo up a hill.
Pushing poo up a hill. You're not. Nothing comes easy. I have struggled. I struggled for 4 years before I even got a diagnosis. And then it was a struggle to have all the right boxes ticked for me to be able to get onto the NDIS. And then it's been a struggle for things to happen. Nothing has come easy. But in saying that, I appreciate what the NDIA are providing for me. So you need to work at anything. And I know that there are families out there that feel like they're constantly smacking their head against a brick wall. But there will be results if you just keep on persevering. And the best thing to do is to talk to people that are in the same position as you, because there's always one that you go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's really helpful. Oh, thank you so much. And I only found that in the hardware on the weekend. I was talking to one of my partner's co-workers' wives, and she has been struggling through this whole trying to get onto the NDIA thing on her own, and didn't realise that there was someone close at hand that could help her. So I spoke to her for over an hour at Bunnings, trying to say what she can do, what she can't do, what she needs to, how she needs to word things. And I won't go into her particulars because that's her story. But she had been going to all these government organisations, and no one was able to help her, but someone who had already had those struggles herself was able to shed a light, and she was able to see something in the future. So that's the whole point of this podcast, is to try and help people and make them realise that they're not on their own. We've all had to have our struggles, and we're all still fighting for what's necessary, reasonable and necessary.
Yeah. And if you've got a question, like, feel free to contact us, We're happy to answer questions. It'd actually make it a lot easier, because trying to think of what to say is pretty hard.
And the whole reason we're having this discussion today is because last fortnight I went out to dinner, and there was a lady that I sat with that was talking to me about the fact that there is no longer respite. Well, it's not called respite. There are lots of things that are out there to give you a break for a day or two.
So it's short-term accommodation.
It's short-term accommodation. You've got skill building days, you've got gardening days, you've got art days. There are social days like that dinner that I went to, which was NDIS funded thing. So there are computers and technology, there's cooking, there's fitness, there's sport, there's music, and there's camps. And these are all things that are available to someone that is on the NDIS. And you've just got to ask the right people to organise that to be done. It doesn't get handed to you. Nothing from the NDIS is just handed to you on a silver platter. You've got to ask for it, and you've got to inquire about it, and you've got to do the investigation inside of it. But if you're really wanting that time to be able to have a rest in your own self, then you need to organise for your child, or I need to organise for myself to do these things. It doesn't just get delivered to you, which is something that I think that the NDIA could do better by sending out newsletters and saying this is what's available. Like we touched on quite briefly in our last podcast, the thermomixes are now regarded as reasonable and necessary through the NDIS. You still have to have your plan coordinator there and your OT there for them to do a submission to the NDIA or to the NDIA. Yeah, to the NDIA to have it approved. But it is a piece of equipment that is there to help you retain your independence. And that is not made commonly known. So this is why we are doing what we're doing. So when we find something out, we can let you know. And if you want to know something, we can put links in to help you get to the place that you need to get to find the things that you feel are needed for your disabled child or yourself.
Yeah, so, just to add on to that, depends. It'll depend on your plan as to whether you've got funding for that. So then you would have to put in for a review if you don't have the funding for a camp or whatever. Then the only other thing is that there is a register of companies, but they're only for NDIA registered companies. So they're companies that are able to get funding from NDIA managed clients. But otherwise, it's a bit of a free-for-all, which is not great. I suppose it's more about finding what best fits you, but also, you need to be cautious around familiarity, boundaries. You also need to be, aware of some of the responsibilities that lie on your side of it, because, that NDIA funding, that it might be a slim chance, but there is a chance that if you're not doing the right thing, or your support worker or your support coordinator are not doing the right thing, that there is a chance that that funding can be taken away from you. And I don't wish that upon anyone, so we're all better off looking after what we've got and working together to get it to be the best thing that it can be, because sure, there's parts that the NDIA can fix, like with your local area coordinator. So your LAC, that they're the first person you meet, but you could have two people with exactly the same diagnosis, say level 2 autism, and they go in and they get two completely different packages, and they may want the same things. But it might be two completely different packages, because it just depends on the LAC, So there are refinements on both sides that can be done, and like Leonie said, we're here to just sort of give our own peace of mind and
our own experiences, which is
hopefully bring it out to all our fans. They're fans. We've got fans. But
oh my goodness, James.
Or what, six people?
Yeah, 6 people.
6 people.
That 6 is better than none.
But it is what it is, and I think that word of mouth is probably the best way. So, for instance, just using my wife as an example, so she basically built her own reputation by being. So she worked in the industry, and she moved up the ladder very quickly. Then she went and worked hard and went to university and got her bachelor in counselling, and that as soon as she opened up her counselling doors, she was busy straight off the bat with NDIS clients, because everyone knew her work ethic.
That's correct.
And her ability, but that was basically, it was just word of mouth, and then from then on, it was just clients telling other clients at groups, and then that just sort of fed off each other. So sometimes it's just listening to people like Leonie and just having a chat and feeling out where they
don't think that you're on this on your own. There are many people out there with different disabilities that are suffering because they think they've got no one to talk to. Well, there's always someone to talk to, and hopefully James and I are helping in our waffle that we waffle on with. We stated right. We stated right from the very beginning that we're no experts in any of this. We're only talking about our own experiences. we will certainly probably make mistakes, and we apologise if that offends anyone. But sometimes a bit of tough love is what people need, and sometimes they need to just have a hug, or sometimes they need to know that there's someone out there that is listening to them. So, yeah, that's what this is all about.
And I think that a lot of people out there do feel alone, and not only alone, but isolated, because it can be, you know, especially if you're a parent, you know, you get to go, you go to, you know, you either go to work or you're at home cleaning during the day or studying. Then your kids come home, you know, and if you've got kids with additional needs, you know, then you're looking after that, and then it's bedtime, and then it's just replay, and that's day in, day out, you know. So you don't have time to go and mingle. I mean, some people do, some people don't, but you know, there might be that feeling of isolation. But you know, one thing that I learned recently, you know, is that you're not like you know, you're not the only person that has, you know, those thought patterns. You're not the only person that's, you know, there's 18 billion people in the world. You know, there are other people out there in that same situation, and there are people that are out there with the capability and the passion. That's very, very big. It's the passion to help. You know, because it's not about. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be about money. Like, people need money. Money's great, but it shouldn't be about money. That shouldn't be your driving force. For support. No,
for support workers, no, it should not be. They should have some sort of empathy and compassion and understanding of what you're going through, and that needs to be more regulated as far as I'm concerned. People should be qualified for the actual position that they're entailing, because there are lots of high need care people out there, and I have done my grade 3 in a certificate in home care and wellbeing, and know what's involved in doing that, and know what my limits were and what my limits were not. And so unfortunately, with the independents that are coming through today, they do not have the training. Not all of them. There are some that have the training, like my plan coordinator did a day of training last Friday. So she keeps herself up to date very well, but that's not a common thing. No. Whereas I'm finding that more and more there are support workers coming through that are dealing with clients that are very high need, and I would hate to think if something went wrong with what they're doing and that client got sick, or you know, or something like that. Like, people are changing catheters that are not qualified to be changing catheters, and you know, administering medication when they've had no training to be administering medication. And I know that this is happening. I have spoken to people and they've told me that they're not qualified, and yet this is what they're doing. And I just think that's very wrong, because I spent a lot of time doing courses when I was working for ADAC to make sure that I had empathy, the right amount of care giving, and I was qualified to do it for the client and had their best interest at heart all the time. Whereas these people are seeing the money signs. Oh, this is easy money. It's easy money, and it's not easy money, because you've got to have a certain amount of empathy, understanding, and compassion for the person that you're dealing with. James did a lot of research on Parkinson's when he first started working with me. He didn't have to, but he wanted to know, on my worst day, what was he going to be in for? So he could recognise the signs when it was coming and deal with it. So that's the type of carer or support worker that you want, someone that is going to take on what you're dealing with and have, even if it's just a small understanding, an understanding of sorts, which is where I struggle with the NDIA, because the people that do your plans have no idea.
Yeah, you've got to know your limitations.
So,
As a supporter, you've got to know your limitations. You've also, got to educate yourself as well.
So, I think they should have some sort of understanding of someone that's quadriplegic, or someone that has a neurological disorder, or someone that is autistic, and they should have those fields within the NDIA so that they're the people that actually are speaking to you when you're doing your plan. But whether that happens or not, I will keep on advocating for it, but I don't know. I wasn't going to do a lot of talking today. My throat's already really sore. I think we're going to call it quits today. But thank you very much again for listening to us.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.